the number one thing that you can do to become a better reader is to stop reading. I know that sounds super counterintuitive, but in this sense, I don't mean better in the sense of getting better at reading as in getting better at the physical act of reading. I mean becoming a better reader in the sense of you engage with the book on a deeper level and a more intentional level, and you take the learning that you have from the book and you actually integrate it into your life. This comes from a book that I read recently that I'm going to do a review on called Make It Stick. It's a scientific examination of how we actually learn. A lot of the ways that we think we learn are not actually ways that any of us really learn very well. We think that we're learning well because our short-term memory is triggered, and we feel a lot of excitement of being able to remember the thing like right now, and we feel like we're doing good right now. But in the long run, it actually doesn't serve us. We're not able to recall, and we haven't integrated what we tried to learn in a way that actually comes out well in our life. One of the tools that this book talks about is this idea of trying to figure it out first, right? So before you go and read the lesson on whatever the thing is, try to come up with the answer first. Like, look at what it's going to tell you and try to figure out what it's going to say and why it's going to say that. And when you put in the work first to try to come to your own conclusion, even if your conclusion is wrong or in error, you actually learn the truth better when you tried to figure it out beforehand, right? This was super impressed on me this morning. I've been reading this book called What is Reformed Theology by R.C. Sproul, and it's fascinating because I was reading the chapter this morning about humanity's radical corruption and this idea of original sin. And I was, at the end of the chapter, I wrote down this idea that I was like, man, it's so crazy how much of this I'd already come to just through the process of thinking. I'd been having conversations with some buddies and some friends and working through this whole idea and just thinking through, okay, what is sin? What does sin have to be? Like, how does sin work? Is there such thing as original sin? Are we born sinful, or are we born like just, normal? Like, there's all these pat answers that I have, but I don't actually know the answers, right? And so I just spent like a month just thinking through things, right? And because I had spent all this time trying to figure out original sin and what does that mean and what does that look like, then by the time I got to where I actually read this chapter and was reading some of the thoughts of some of the great men of history who have delved into this topic and actually got to my learning about this topic, I could engage with it at a completely different level than if I had just picked it up to be like, okay, tell me what original sin is, tell me what this topic is, and I'll just sit here and be like, right? So one of the things that I want you to do is, if you have something that you're trying to figure out, that you want to learn about, that that is interesting you or confusing you or whatever, take the time before you go and read and before you go and research, sit down and force yourself to come up with an answer, right? Whatever the question is, like, what is original sin, right? Force yourself to sit down and come up with some kind of an answer. And then even if that answer is completely off basis and you're just like, you got it so wrong, you're just like, oh my gosh, that was an epic failure. Even if that answer is totally wrong, the processes that got started in your brain will actually make it to where you remember what is actually true, and what you go and learn that corrected whatever it was that was wrong, or that affirmed whatever it was that was right that you were thinking. The learning of that will happen so much deeper and get so much more imprinted in your mind that your ability to recall and talk about that subject at a later time will just be like incomparable to if you had just sat down and tried to read the thing and just learn the thing directly from the book. So if you want to learn to be a better reader, stop reading, okay? And before you do it, spend the time to actually start to engage your brain in thinking, because becoming a better reader is really just becoming a better thinker. So start to prime your brain with that. Try to come up with the answer and then go and engage with the book. And I promise you it will change absolutely everything about how you learn. I've got another video that I'm going to be working on from this Make It Stick book. It was so good. It's fascinating, the things that we think are working that are just totally not working and the things that we think are just terrible and really bad for us that are actually some of the best possible tools that we can learn to learn new information and to be able to recall that at a later date. So hope that helps, and I'll see you in the next one.